What's going on, everyone? It's Wesley back with you today with Core 4 Sports. Today we're going to be doing our weekly basketball video, breaking down the top teams in college basketball, the storylines, and of course, picking our games of the week. To start off, our team of the week is the Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma last week beat two top 10 teams in Texas and Alabama, and they're trending in the right direction and playing really good basketball right now. This Oklahoma team has beaten really good teams in the Big 12, including West Virginia and now Texas, and they're going to look to continue to be one of the better teams in the Big 12 as we head towards the conference tournament and towards March. Our bum of the week this week is going to be the Minnesota Gophers. Minnesota's lost their two games to Maryland and Purdue, and it really hasn't been close in either of those two games. Purdue, though, is now new to our rankings and is now ranked 24th in the country, but Minnesota has now dropped out. Minnesota is going to have to beat a pretty decent team in Rutgers this week, and as well as Nebraska next week, and then they play Purdue again to try and get back on track. But right now, the bum of the week is the Minnesota Golden Gophers. There are two teams this week that jumped 7 spots in the ranking, and that is Illinois and Tennessee. Illinois played their first game in 10 days and beat Iowa by 5 this past Friday, and I did pick that game incorrectly. And Illinois took a big jump in the polls to number 12 this week. Last week, we were talking about Tennessee being on the downturn, but this week, Tennessee turned things around in a big way. They got a 3-point win against Mississippi State early in the week, and then beat Kansas by about 20 this past Saturday. And Kansas is just reeling right now, but Tennessee is playing a lot better basketball than they were a week ago when they had lost 2 straight games. Tennessee is also up 7 spots this week to number 11 in the rankings, and they're going to look to continue to climb against Ole Miss and Kentucky this week. One of the better teams in college basketball recently has been Ohio State, and the rankings prove that. Ohio State is up 6 spots this week, and they've beaten Wisconsin, Penn State, and Michigan State in their last 3 games. Ohio State's a pretty good team and has played a really tough Big Ten schedule, as everyone in that conference has, and they're going to look to continue to kind of stay where they are and maybe possibly climb depending what happens in front of them. But they're still chasing really good teams such as Michigan and Houston. Right now, Kansas is down 8 spots to number 23 in the country. If I told you at the beginning of the year that we could have a chance of Kansas, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Duke all being outside of the top 25, would you have believed me? No, probably not. But if Kansas loses one of their 2 games this week, which they might, they're going to be outside the top 25 with the rest of those teams this time come next week. So Kansas really has to pick it up and turn it around in a really tough Big 12, and I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to do it. They're not playing great basketball. They beat an all-right TCU team and then got dominated against Tennessee, and they're just going to have to turn things around up there in Lawrence if they're going to want to make a jump in the next few weeks and possibly get back into a top 4 seed come tournament time. We have 3 new teams this week to our rankings. We have Purdue, which is played pretty good basketball and beat Minnesota this week. We also have Drake, who is undefeated and is continuing to win basketball games. Then we have Florida. Florida's a pretty interesting team. Florida last week went and beat Tennessee by 25-30, I believe, if I'm correct. And then they this Saturday beat West Virginia by 5. Florida is now coming into our rankings at number 22 in the country and is a team to watch out as they head down the stretch in the SEC. Another team to keep your eye on as they are trending in a downward direction right now is Missouri. Missouri last week was trending upward, and we identified that, and we thought they would have a better week than they did. Missouri lost to Auburn and TCU, 2 mediocre, not great teams, and so they dropped 6 spots in this week's poll. Now for my picks of the week. Last week I went 1-4. I know, not great, but I am now sitting 5-5 on the season and over the last 2 weeks. So we have 6 games this week that we're picking from. So I'm going to start with tonight's game, Oklahoma at Texas Tech. Oklahoma is probably the hottest team in basketball right now, up 15 spots in this week's poll. But I just think Texas Tech is playing well. They had a heartbreak loss against West Virginia last Monday, and they kind of just need a win in the Big 12 schedule. I think Oklahoma's luck is going to run out tonight, and I do think Texas Tech will beat them. Our next game is tomorrow night, and this is the best 2 teams in the Big 12 right now, and that is Baylor and Texas. Both teams are really good. Both teams have a lot to prove against each other just to see if they can beat one of the best teams in the country, as they are both really, really good. But I do think Baylor will hold and win this game. Next, we have Ohio State at Iowa. Now, this game's a really interesting game. Iowa obviously lost last week, and they're going to look to turn it around. And Ohio State's playing pretty good basketball right now, but I just think Iowa has too much to prove still, and they are still trying to fight and show everyone that they deserve to be a top 2 seed come tournament time, and I think Iowa will win this game. Next is Wisconsin and Illinois. Both teams have been pretty inconsistent at times this season. Wisconsin kind of hitting that patch right now. Illinois is playing really good basketball, beating Iowa last week, and I do think Illinois will hold on and beat Wisconsin this week. Next in the SEC, we have Alabama at Missouri. Both teams are kind of in a little bit of a skid right now. Both teams lost this past week. Alabama's really good, as we identified earlier. So is Missouri. Missouri's on a downward turn right now. I think Missouri needs to win more, and so I think Missouri will win. Our last game of the week might be a little biased as I go to the school, is Kansas and West Virginia. Kansas beat West Virginia by about 20 and completely smacked them the first time they played, but I do think the Mountaineers will be able to turn it around, and I'm going to pick West Virginia to beat Kansas this Saturday. So that's all for this week's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and if you got this far, thank you for watching. So that is it. Be sure to like and subscribe down below. Comment any videos, questions, or just anything you might want to say. Be sure to follow our Instagram, Core4SportsYT, which I will put right here and in the description. And thank you for watching.